how do you spin it or turn it around when are working with someone and they got a real closed mindset? You start talking about sumo deadlift or building lateral mobility, and they're like, "Yeah, well, I don't do that because sumo deadlifts is stupid," or whatever. So you find someone who's really close. How do you work to meet them and hopefully shift their mindset to a more growth-oriented approach?
Yeah, and a lot of things to do, try to take it back to the sport they play or injuries they've had. I know we've get people in here who's like, we get a lot of baseball players and they've had, tendonitis in their elbow, they've had little league elbow, they've had shoulder problems. And it's like, no, I don't typically do shoulder care or band work or whatever it may be. And they have goals of, okay, I want to play in high school, I want to play in college. And this is where you're at now. You're not going to make it very far doing the things you're doing now because look, what's worse than, not being able to play your sport because you're injured because you don't want to do these certain things. And then just showing them, when we're doing these certain things, how it can make them feel. If I, you know, doing some sort of mobility drill or finding common ground, it's like, okay, maybe this one is not great for them, but if I can find a mobility drill that's going to work the same thing that they're comfortable with, and then they can feel the difference of like how this made me feel, how this made me move. Similar with taking it back, which I'm able to do with certain athletes. Okay, this is someone I worked with. This is something that they did before, and this is what worked for them. Or having an older athlete, like, hey, this is where someone is, and they had the same sort of mindset that you did, and they were able to do these certain things, and they're at this level now. I think taking it to relating where they're at, I can think about where I was in high school and not want to do certain things or had certain views about lifting and training and realizing, okay, that could be me too that I'm talking to. So where I was in a mindset and, things that move the needle for me in terms of like, how's this going to get me better? How's this going to make me throw harder? How's this going to make me a better athlete? And kind of relating back to then. And then relating it to, whether it's a pro athlete, a college athlete, someone that's, in varsity right now and things that they do that they wish they did when they were, 12, 13, 14 years old. If they could go back and work on their nutrition, they could go work back on mobility, some of the strength work. So having those older guys talk to some of the younger guys or girls as well. And then when they're able to
Huge.
see some of these changes, I think that's when you get the buy-in where they actually see results and things like that.
Yeah. So you got to try to educate them, like you said.
Mhm.
And then, they might be like, man, you're 25-year-old or you're 28-year-old. What do you know? Or I heard, hey, you're my dad. What do you know? Even though two of my kids played in college. And so you give them some facts and maybe they believe you, maybe they don't. But maybe they need to hear it from someone else. Like you said, maybe it's from the seniors or alumni. They come back and they say, hey, man, here's the reality. Everybody thinks they're different or they're special and they're really not. If you don't eat very well, you're not going to play very well for very long. So at some point, they make this leap of faith. All right, I'm going to trust coach, or I'm going to trust this older guy, or I'm going to trust the guys that played before me. And then they start to put those little habits into play and they see, holy cow, coach was right. Holy shit, he's not a dumbass. Right. And so they have a little more confidence in you and more belief. Next thing you know, all right, now let's move forward. So just like anything else, like getting you to believe that you got to drive on the right side of the road versus the left as you get taught these things and they see, hey, this is the way it goes. And sooner or later they start to believe it, but it's still always going to be a process of doing that.